What do you picture when you hear the term Dust Bowl? Maybe something dry and lifeless? Then you would be right. The Dust Bowl was an area of land in the United States stretching from Kansas and Oklahoma to parts of Texas, Colorado, and New Mexico. In the 1930s, the land in this area, which was flat and had been used for many years as farmland, dried up because of overuse and drought. This is a picture of a large lake that dried up and left dry, dusty land in its place. Farmers lost their crops because of the parched soil. People in that region became very poor. So poor that many people became migrant workers, moving around the Midwest looking for work. As the earth dried out, winds began to blow, causing huge dust clouds to form and blow over the plains. These clouds were called dust storms. The dust storms often rose up without warning and covered many miles. Homes, businesses, and roads disappeared under the clouds of dust. These storms are the reason that the Dust Bowl got its name. This ongoing natural disaster, along with the economic crisis of the Great Depression, caused the area of the Dust Bowl to become the home of some of the poorest people in the United States at the time. In 1935, a female photographer named Dorothea Lange was hired by the United States government to capture the Dust Bowl and the farmers who had been affected by the drought. Dorothea took many photos of the poor living in the Dust Bowl. Her favorite subjects to shoot were families, especially women and children. Children of the Dust Bowl had to work very hard to help their families earn money. Some children went to school, but they had very few supplies, and the books and papers that they did have were covered in dust. Some children had to stop going to school to move with their families and help with farm work. Women who lived in the Dust Bowl also had difficult lives. They not only had to care for their families with little or no resources, but they also had to help earn money to replace the lost crops. The women of the Dust Bowl knew the importance of stretching a dollar. In this photo, you can see the woman is wearing an old flour sack as an apron, no doubt in order to save some money. Children often grew sick because of breathing in all of the dust in the air. Women, mothers, sisters, and grandmothers were in charge of caring for sick babies with very few resources to help them. One of Dorothea Lange's most famous photographs was taken at this campsite. A mother and her children were living in this makeshift tent because they had lost their farm and home. Her portrait, called Migrant Mother, Nimpoma, California, 1936, is a classic image of the Dust Bowl era. Lange was concluding a month's trip photographing migratory farm labor around the state when she came across the woman and her children. The woman in the photo is Florence Owens Thompson. She was a young mother and migrant worker caring for her children on the harsh landscape of the Dust Bowl. In 1960, Dorothea Lange spoke about her experience taking the photograph. I saw and approached the hungry and desperate mother, as if drawn by a magnet. I do not remember how I explained my presence or my camera to her, but I do remember she asked me no questions. I did not ask her name or her history. She told me her age, that she was 32. She said that they had been living on frozen vegetables from the surrounding fields and birds that the children had killed. She had just sold the tires from her car to buy food. There she sat in that lean-to tent with her children huddled around her, and she seemed to know that my picture might help her, and so she helped me. Dorothea continued her work traveling around the western United States, seeking out the faces of the Dust Bowl. She captured the poor, the suffering, the homeless, the hungry, the lonely, the depressed, the sick, the outcast, the orphan, the oppressed, the families who struggled to make ends meet in a very difficult time. Dorothea Lange was also known for capturing people who were strong and proud, despite living in such hardship. This little girl confronts us head-on. What would she say if she could speak to us today? Or these, men, women, and children, who tried very hard to make the best of their situation. Dorothea told a story of struggle through her photographs, but also a story of perseverance, working hard to make a better life, even in hard times. As time went on, people could no longer support themselves in the Dust Bowl, so many families packed up and began to move west into California. Some went by car. Others walked, carrying with them all of the possessions that they had, hoping for a better life. Dorothea Lange was a woman who captured a time in American history when much was changing, not only the landscape, but also the ideas, hopes, and dreams of the American people living in the West during the time of the Dust Bowl. If Dorothea Lange were alive today, she would probably be out in the United Nations Plaza in New York City talking with and photographing the homeless. Dorothea Lange gave a face to the poor, especially the migrant workers from the Dust Bowl that she captured in the 1930s.